Hi, this is Josh Bowman, Product Manager for QxControl, and in this video we're going to cover rules in QxControl. Rules are a great way to set up notifications based on conditions that can occur within QxControl. Rules in QxControl can be very simple, or you can make them very complex with lots of layers and various conditions as well as suppression guards to control the amount of times that the rule will fire. For the purpose of this lesson, we're going to start off with a very simple rule to give you a good base level of knowledge to build upon. So before we begin, why don't we take a look at an existing rule for gateway disconnections, just to get a little pre-work on how this comes together. So what you'll see is it has a label and a scope, and it is enabled. You can see that we apply a schedule to each rule. In this case, it is always, so this rule will always be in place and will always be active. We also have our condition, and the condition here is that we have an event type that is equal to gateway connection. The next component of a rule is the suppression guard. This is optional. You could choose not to include a suppression guard, but it is advisable to do so, especially for device connection related events, because if you have a network that is providing a condition where you are constantly connecting, reconnecting, that may actually be imperceptible to QxControl and may not actually be creating a problem, but without a suppression guard, you may get spammed with lots of messages. So you can see in this rule, we've chosen to say that the gateway must be disconnected for at least 2 minutes before we get a notification. You'll see as we create one, you can make that whatever you would like. Lastly, you can see an individual named Aaron Martin at amartin@qmlex.com is scheduled to receive this email when the rule fires as the condition takes place. And you'll see two things here. You'll see where information was manually input into the template message. Where you see the black with blue border, this is an indication that data fields were selected. This means that QxControl will automatically populate that information based on the data field chosen, which is very helpful if you have a condition where maybe it is a large number of cameras and any of them could become disconnected and fire the rule. You can set data labels to automatically populate in the message which camera is disconnected and is triggering the rule. Very helpful. So let's go ahead and go back to our rules page. And we're going to go ahead and create a very simple rule. And let's go ahead and create a rule around a camera disconnection. And we can see some of the options that we have here. First, we always need to provide a name and a description. Please note, this description has nothing to do with the alert that will go out. This is simply for anyone in the rules page to understand what the rule is used for. Please don't delete it, whatever information you think might be useful. We also want to choose if that rule is enabled or disabled. For example, maybe you have rules staged to use later. Maybe you keep them disabled. In our case, we're going to enable this rule. The place or the scope will actually be locked in. So wherever my scope is, once I go into the create rule, is where we'll be set. So please make sure that you're at the scope that you desire when you begin to create the rule. And we're going to choose a schedule. I could go to schedules page and create a schedule just for this rule, or if there's an existing schedule that works for me, I can simply use that. And we'll do just like that previous example. We'll say that the rule is always enabled according to the schedule. The next component that we're going to look at are the conditions. What is going to cause the rule to engage, to fire? So the trigger condition in this case we're going to say is a camera, and we're going to say that the camera is equal to front camera. We can actually continue adding as many conditions as we would like, so there really is no limit. So again, we can make this as deep as we want. We're going to keep it simple and say we've had trouble with this camera, so let's just keep an eye on it. And we're going to choose create. And now you can see our initial condition has been selected. So now we need to add another condition. We've identified that the condition must be this particular camera. But what does that mean? Well, we need to choose a status. So in this case, since it's a camera disconnect, we're going to say that the status, and we're going to again use equal to, and we're going to look for disconnected. Now we're going to choose create. And so now our very simple rule, the first section is complete. Front camera is status equal to disconnected. Next, we have the option to include that suppression guard. Since this is a device connection related rule, we're going to go ahead and add a suppression guard to make sure that we do not get spammed. 120 seconds, 2 minutes seemed like a pretty fair estimate of what we would want, so we'll use that again. And we're also going to add the condition for this guard. And so what we're going to do is work backwards, and we're going to say that the camera is not equal to vending. All right, so now we've got our suppression guard. It's given us a 2-minute delay. We've made sure that it is not our other camera in that area. Again, we could have chosen many, many different conditions. So you can go back with the blue box here, and we can edit if we don't like what we see. So let's do this another way. Let's choose, instead of enforcing that it is the correct camera, let's just say it is enforcing the correct condition. So let's say status is not equal to connected. We'll save that. So now we've said front camera is equal to disconnected. After 2 minutes, if the camera is not connected, we're ready to go. So we'll choose update. And you can see that has now been accepted. And so we'll go into the final section here, which is actions. So for this notification, we can choose email or SMS. Now, just a note, if you're using our QX Pro, our cloud license, we actually provide you the email and text service. So these messages will go out via our service. If you're using QX One, you will need to go into settings and populate your own servers. So let's choose a simple email notification. We can search or add an email address, just like with the clip sharing, or we can also choose someone that is already in the system. So we'll pick on Kyle Adams because he's at the top of the list. And we're going to say camera disconnect for the header. And we're going to use that add data field. So again, all the same options for data labels as you would see in the conditions fields. And much of this is the same as you would see in search and timeline and other areas where we can choose different tags and conditions. So what we want to do is we want to tell him what the camera name is. So what will happen is when this email generates, it will automatically populate that, just like we saw in the previous example. And why is Kyle getting this? Because when he sees this message, please repair. You can also set an additional rate limit override, meaning regardless of how many times the rule will fire, we can set additional requirements around. Maybe we only want one email per hour or per 30 minutes, whatever the case may be. So again, we want to give you lots of options to prevent spamming. And we choose update. So now you can see all components of this rule are now in place. We can choose create rule, and there you have it. So again, that is a very simple rule. Hopefully you can see all the ways that you can continue to add depth and create just, again, as complicated as you want to get with a rule, or we could go this route and keep it very, very simple. So we appreciate your time. This concludes the lesson on rules. Thank you.